bunch of losers out here. That word's
No, but like that honestly is funnier than, hey guys, welcome to the PolyMarks caucus. Yeah,
No, I agree.
the NPR voice.
You are doing a little NPR voice.
Yeah,
It doesn't seem like natural for you.
I don't know. Like you're
Is this normal? Is this my normal?
I don't know.
It doesn't sound like your normal voice. All right, well, welcome to episode 2 of the PolyMarks podcast. My name is Joel, and if Andrew has done the editing correctly, you should have just heard our introduction music. Can't believe we've actually made it to an episode 2. It's a little crazy here. Andrew, how did you get that music made?
Well, bought a bass. Spent a lot of time learning how to. I should buy a bass. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Might have been one of my ADD impulse purchases.
No, I've never heard of it. No.
I think the best thing we're going to find out today is that Andrew's already spent his entire $1,000 he put on the phone. When we hit week 2, and it's like, oh, yeah, over the course of the next 3 to 5 months, we'll try to spend a couple dollars here and there to figure this stuff out, track our portfolio.
No, I think it's more likely that Andrew's like, well, I've spent $2,400 on recording equipment, guys. What have you got so far into this?
But no, I did that entire song using Suno, S-O-N-O, or S-U-N-O. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but yeah. Basically, a couple minutes worth of prompting, and I got it to spit that out. Now, it said that I couldn't use it for commercial purposes. Well, unless I paid a premium. No. This is just
zero revenue.
shouting into the
I'm sure we would pay them off in some need, but yeah, today we're going to be talking a little bit about some real low ball, nothing interesting, nothing spicy. We're
low stakes.
Low stakes. Andrew's got some really interesting bets about these little places you may have heard of called Gaza, Ukraine, Russia, and so we're going to be just. Let's pitch it off to Andrew here. Your first bet is with the Gaza withdrawal within 2025. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, starting on a light note.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's important to acknowledge that both the things we're going to talk about, there's horrendous, human cost at work, but I also think it's fun to talk about, political events that are going on in our time, foreign policy decisions. Obviously, this is important to Canada because it seems to be our prime minister's number one priority, seeing as he can't get a trade deal done. Seemingly Matt's bet from last week is going to pay off. There's zero movement on that.
Yeah, no movement right away. And maybe we should start, if we're going to talk about Gaza and Israel conflict as well as Ukraine, Russia, something big happened today. Andrew, what was your take on the Putin-Trump interaction today?
Well, I was hoping that we'd talk about this as an ongoing issue. We're recording on Friday night here. But it seems like Putin flew in, took a couple of questions, took a picture with Trump, and then got the F out of Alaska.
Well, I think I had made a bet last week or maybe after the pod last week about whether or not there would be a meeting between Putin and Zelensky before August 31st, right? And the odds are kind of been looking
to know on that one.
Sure, I definitely haven't sold my position already, but no, I mean, I think the trajectory or the projection I was hoping for is that interaction would go well, and then we'd see, a Zelensky-Putin meeting before that time. Obviously,
no, it's again. I think that's not an unreasonable bet,
right? And it was relatively low, decent return if it had turned out. But I sold it. I probably lost 50% of my bet, but it's only 10 cents that I bought it, and I sold it 5 or something.
And I think this is an important thing to kind of have a little overall broad discussion as far as where I think a lot of our bets should go, which is I think you have to be contrarian generally to be right in situations. You have to find value where you're going against the market, but that also means you're going to be wrong a lot. But the idea of like taking all these bets, you know, for 80 cents to get an extra 20% on your thing, I just don't think it's, you know what I mean? I just don't think it's often worth it unless you're like, no, this is 100% and it's a free 20%. Obviously you can pick it up, but the real way to make money in this is being contrarian, right? And that's a lot of the stuff we talked about last week when I was like, I couldn't believe how high the market was saying Trump will lower tariffs on Canada. And so it doesn't even feel like a contrarian bet to me, but that's the way the market was marketing it. So yeah,
I think the important thing too is like Andrew was talking about. It's like they are sensitive topics, right? Between Gaza and Ukraine, we've chosen some real winners this week, but ultimately, you know, we're talking about the markets, right? And we're talking about whether there's return and whether we think, you know, what way we think the wind is blowing, not necessarily on what we, you know, care about in these particular issues. Obviously, we care about life in general. I think between all of us, we can all agree on that. And but yeah, tell us, Andrew, what the Gaza withdrawal, what are the sort of rules around that market?
Well, I thought are we going to start with Russia, Ukraine?
Yeah.
Let's start with today, Matt.
So I picked up 2 positions this week. I bought shares in Russia, Ukraine ceasefire before both October and before end of the year. And I had a hard no on both. And both my positions went up a fair bit the second that Putin took off, and you know, they canceled their meetings for tomorrow. So I hope this would be an ongoing.
Was there plans for meeting tomorrow?
Yeah,
I thought there should be a luncheon today that got canceled. I thought that's what.
No, because it's the last is only a couple hours ahead of us, right? The luncheon was supposed to be for tomorrow. Pretty sure.
Okay, well, yeah, there's only one sort of,
I don't know,
slight event that got missed.
I don't think it was ever a 2-day event. I could be wrong.
Maybe you're right. Regardless, I think that the markets and the reporting coming out of Alaska bear out that this did not bolster the chance of a ceasefire happening in Ukraine anytime soon. And I'm just of the position that that's where this war is going. I think Putin's gone all in with Ukraine. I don't think there's any minimalist settlement that he'd be willing to take at this point. You know, he's not just going to take the Donbass, which he already, you know, or Donetsk, you know, all these places, Crimea, that he already had prior to 2022. He's not just going to settle for that. He's literally lost 1 million soldiers at this point. There's no way that his regime will be able to take a sort of minimalist settlement. And it's certainly nothing that includes security guarantees for Ukraine, like NATO or anything of the like.
Well, what about if there was some? Isn't the key for him demilitarization, right?
Well, yeah,
they could have some kind of security guarantee. Hypothetically, this plays out where they get some kind of security guarantees if X and Y happen from America and Europe to a certain degree. You have to assume that's how it plays out, because demilitarization is probably also going to be one of the parameters that he's going to ask for. And I think, yeah, I mean, everyone talks about how much they hate Putin, but the reality of the situation on the ground is he is winning. My understanding, of course, you know what I mean? Making advances, and we can't keep up without just continuing to throw all this money at them. And both Europe and Americans don't seem to have the stomach for that. We don't want to. We want a settlement. We want to get this over with. But of course, Ukrainians are not in that position. So it's pretty tricky. I don't see anything happening this year. That's why I like the no ceasefire bet.
Well, it's 67 cents right now to buy it now.
That's for 2025.
And that's for the ceasefire within 2025. And I mean, it does sound like a good bet, right? We're going into the winter, right? But a lot of these places, like you say, man, nobody wants to give up. Russia doesn't want to give up the territory they've gained in Ukraine. In addition to the Donbass and Donetsk and all these other places, right? They're constantly moving around these different cities, and I don't think they're going to want to give that up around the winter unless it's a very favorable settlement in their favor, which I don't think Ukraine wants, right? And
well, I don't think Ukraine has. The problem is, like, there's basically, in my mind, there's only a couple of ways this goes, which is they continue to lose on the ground to Russia because they have more troops and more
Well, I just question what you define as losing, because I mean, by all accounts,
Russia's holding up, or sorry, Ukraine's holding up fairly well, right?
and by all accounts,
super
the
well.
casualty ratio is at very least commensurate with their population disparity, right?
Yeah.
Like if Russia has 10 times the population of Ukraine or 8 or whatever, I would say that there's at least an 8-to-1 ratio of casualties on Russia to Ukraine, or somewhere along those lines.
I never heard that. I mean, again, I don't. Let's be honest here. None of us are experts. If you can pull something up, that'd be great. But and of course, we don't have accurate information. You know what I mean? There's always propaganda on both sides trying to say
Sure.
who's winning more and yada yada yada.
100%.
But like, I just think there is no right. I think Ukraine's in a really shitty situation, right? They don't have anybody that's active and ready to go, and you know what I mean. Europe does not have the money, and America does not have. Americans don't want to fund it anymore, so they're in the worst spot. And yeah, I
guess I just question how you define the word winning, because like, for example, World War I, Germany lost despite a foreign soldier never stepping foot on their land. But at a certain point, they just couldn't keep fighting any longer. Their people at home were starving. They were running out of everything. And they just said, okay, I guess we're done. It's been 4 years.
I guess, go ahead, Phil. You have something to say?
Yeah, I just think, again, we're not experts on this, but I think from what I've seen, you know, obviously they've made significant gains in terms of some of these territories, but on a day-to-day basis, on a month-to-month basis, even in the last couple of years, the movements are on a micro scale, right? It's like
But everything's
they're slowly surrounding cities. They're slowly moving up, right?
I think
for example, they could go further and they just kind of holding up and slowly lines in. I mean, I guess the whole point is like, I understand what you're saying, but the point is the money's already dried up. The people have already dried up for Ukraine first, right? And Russia can I think they can withstand this longer. That's the whole situation. They're not Germany in the situation. They can keep going in front.
So, like I said, Germany was the Russia of that time, where they were the industrial nation.
Okay, whatever. It's not worrying what the analogy is. I'm just saying the actual situation on the ground here. There's only two ways this happens. It either escalates, where Trump says, "Okay, we're giving you long-range missiles. You're going to start attacking into Russia, doing other like basically provocative things, which could then escalate this into who knows what else, right? Like that's the main threat they have. That's the only bargaining chip they have, is Trump saying, listen, if I want to, I can give these guys fucking everything they want and they can go hard, right? But that can go bad for so many ways. And I have to believe that Trump probably doesn't want that.
And I don't think you do it going into a winter, right? Like I feel like winter, or maybe it'll be different with drones.
Sure. Again, we're just talking generically. I'm saying where this thing can go. Or the other thing is Ukraine's going to have to concede a lot. And I don't think that's really on the table yet, because I think it's nothing soon. I think the issue is it's nothing soon.
And I think that's why it's a good bet here, right? It's
right.
Like I'm looking at it now, right? It's like 67 cents. If I put $30 in, I get $44 back.
It's not a huge return, but if you look good,
like that feels good between how that meeting went today and how much Zelensky and Putin don't get along and will never sort of agree to anything soon.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is not only will Putin's regime not survive like a favorable, like demilitarized settlement for Ukraine, Zelensky obviously cannot stomach, just giving up large parts of his country. Like the constitution of Ukraine specifically forbids it.
Right.
I don't think either party, and that's of course on top of all the European countries that are adamantly opposed to any sort of settlement that is going to be seen as rewarding Putin for his war of aggression.
Right.
So I think it's a strong no.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any chance that these two parties come to a ceasefire. And it specifically says in the market that something along the lines of the Easter ceasefire, or earlier this year, where Russia just says, yes, we're going to do an Easter ceasefire, no missiles, and then immediately violates. And then there's something similar for Christmas, for example, that's not going to constitute settling this market.
Right.
It has to be a real negotiated ceasefire.
Yeah.
And I think that's a strong no. I like my bet. And as of today.
What did you buy in on that?
So I took no on, is this going to happen before October? And no,
Like, what's your bet on the 2025 ceasefire? What did you buy in it?
I bought 156 shares at 64, and now they're up to 67.
It's only at 67. All right, fuck it. Putting in $30, baby.
Let's go, Joel.
Let's go.
Joel's in right
So,
now.
I think feeling good about
I think I'm gonna stay out just because, you know, I think there's a chance. I mean, I think this was in some ways a big step because I think one of the main bargaining chips that America does have is normalizing relations with America, or sorry, with Russia, and that's what essentially started today, right?
Right.
He entered America, didn't get arrested, right? So now all these, and so.
the international warrants didn't work.
Exactly. I'm just saying, you know, if you're normalizing relations, I think is a big step as part of the process. I'm not saying your bet's bad. I think the market seems about fair to me. But if it seems about fair, I'm not going to do it.
And my bet has nothing to do with what I want, because what if I just want that I can wait, you know, like
we can't change things.
no, we have no impact on world events. All we can do is call them as we see them.
No shit, Cheryl.
Really was just open out everybody.
Oh, I thought you were going to make your own deal with us. I'm going to call my boy Trumpy. I mean, back channel the Putin.
I don't know, guys.
And I'm going to settle this shit myself.
As soon as I saw that B-2 bomber with like 4 fighter jets going around, I was like, Putin's not gonna stick around for long. And like, I immediately found out he's like, yeah, we're canceling the luncheon. Sorry, boys. You know, I was kind of thought that was that. But it made Trump just knew the photo op would be there, and it was more like I saw that and was me like, oh, that's
It's like a real thing. Like this is like real. It's kind of cool, right? This is like real. Like when people talk about the Cold War, it's like this mini Cold War where it's like, oh yeah, Putin came to visit, and then Trump was like, guess what? We're doing our best tech.
Yeah.
We're bombing over you right as you walk up the podium. Because
you know these ones who just hit 4-0? Yeah, remember that bet from the first episode? Those bombers were doing good.
Okay, well that makes sense. Yeah. So you guys like the no? I'm gonna just do a pass on this bet. So I think it's reasonable.
Do you want to move on to the next bet?
Get even a little more sensitive, and we'll pass it off to Andrew to talk about his thoughts on some of the Gaza-Israel bets.
Yeah. You had multiple.
Yeah, I've got multiple bets on several markets to do with this conflict. I'm gonna start with what I think is the safest bet I have in my, which is the Gaza.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
If my recollection, yeah, that's correct. Go on.
Might be editing this part out. The Gaza mass population relocation in 2025. So this is something that was floated by Trump earlier in the year, with jokes about the Trump Gaza hotel. But the market is, will 500,000 Gazans leave Gaza anywhere outside the borders of the Gaza Strip? And I think that's going to be a hard no on any chance of that happening. I don't think there's any chance that Israel lets them into green light Israel, the proper borders of Israel. And I don't think any of the neighbors are going to take them. It was just floated out there this week that South Sudan might take Palestinian refugees. And I think Palestinians feeling strongly, naturally as they do, that Palestine is their homeland, I don't think there's any chance of them going anywhere, never mind a place as far off and foreign to them as South Sudan.
And what's the odds of this right now, Andrew?
So I bought in at 87. It's still 87 that it's in. So I think it's a safe bet, and that's
when there's what, like 2 or 3 million Gazans? Is my way off, or is it
2? It's 2.
Okay, so 2 million Gazans. I mean, that is 25% of the population.
Yeah, they're essentially if they were doing something
moving permanently, not just
they would probably call it like a temporary situation,
right?
I mean, that's what it seemed like Trump's play was, to say, listen, we're going to go put you guys in these, like,
refurbish it. Yeah,
we'll refurbish it. And exactly, bring you back. And I think that's what the sentiment was made. Obviously, didn't make a lot of sense when said it. I mean, I think it makes sense, and I think I think we run into the kind of the same problem, which I kind of said at the beginning, which is like, it's nice to get 13-point upside, but you know what I mean?
Well, I'm hoping a few of those bets might pay off some of my losers.
Yeah, sure.
Come on, boys.
You know what I mean? But again, I think the real money is to try to find the contrarian. I mean, that makes sense. I think it'd be very difficult to happen. I don't think any of the surrounding Arab nations have a lot of interest in it for multiple reasons. And so, yeah, it makes sense to me.
All right, talking about my next bet. This is the one I like the most. Israel withdraws from Gaza in 2025. So to kind of give you my take on why I think this is a winner, I think that Israel has basically lost this. I think that there's...
Lost the war?
I think they've lost the war.
You mean like the PR battle? They haven't lost the war, clearly.
Right.
Lost. Well, again,
Yes, I mean, there's obviously they're winning the war. I mean, there's no Hamas guys actively fighting them. They won the war.
Right. But if Hamas can negotiate a ceasefire to return the hostages, to come out of their holes and continue holding Gaza after Canada, the UK, and France all recognize Palestine,
Does that actually happen, or is that just still talking about?
they've all said they're going to do it in September.
Is there a month of that?
Yeah, there is. Canada's, I believe, at
The highest?
70 something.
Yeah, it's like
I think
60 or
France is the
70%.
highest. We can look it up here, but I believe that it's going to happen. It's certainly probable.
Okay, let's not worry about this whole who wins. I mean, it's kind of a dumb argument. Let's just focus on the actual.
No, but my
facts. I mean,
point is to say is that I think that they've essentially fought Israel to a standstill. They can't get them out of the tunnels, and there's no more buildings to blow up in Gaza, so there's no chance of Israel winning this war as it currently stands. As such, international pressure is such that they will be forced to basically do a ceasefire. And as the market conditions are for this bet, basically if Israel pulls back to more or less the borders of where they were before the war and ceases ground operations in Gaza, this is going to settle as a yes. And that's what I bought. I bought a yes. I bought it at 20. It's now up to 28%. So it's something I made some money on.
Good job.
Thank you. And I think this is going to lead to Netanyahu's downfall because I don't think his coalition, unlike Putin, who answers to no one, Netanyahu's got to answer to his coalition. I don't know how many parties are in it, but there's dozens of parties in Israel. He's got to answer to his coalition. The hard right, crazy Ben Gvir and Smotrich, they're not going to stand for a ceasefire. I think the government's going to fall. And that's my third bet that in 2025, the Knesset will, fold and they'll have to go back to an election.
Okay, can you just take Netanyahu out at 12%? I thought that was a bet.
I think that might be one too, but I mean, he might not be out. Like, because the difference between him resigning, because he stays prime minister.
So you're saying they're calling election, but
I think
then he won't be out because they won't have to call the election.
Yeah, that's when we have to look at the rules, right? Because is it out of the presidency or out of the
if he resigned,
already. I mean, I don't know anything about.
Won't dissolve necessarily.
I don't know anything about Israeli politics. It's like a parliamentary type stuff, like Canada, right? So he has a coalition government. Yeah, I know the polling's bad for Netanyahu. But I don't understand how that works as far as calling election and stuff like that. I think that's the only chance you have, Andrew, for your bet to settle is if there is some type of major change because if Netanyahu stays in power. I don't think anything's changing off the ground. But I mean, yeah, maybe it's worth a shot, 30%. You know what I mean? I don't think it's crazy odds.
Yeah.
But I would not bet that Israel leaves Gaza. I think we talked about, amount of effort and all the things about Russia, why Russia's not going to leave easily. I don't think Israel will either, despite international power or sort of international pressure.
I mean, just kind of hearing both sides of that, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be hard I haven't looked at the particular rules there, Andrew, but to me, it seems like, yeah, like Andrew says, or Matt says, if Netanyahu's still in there, you're going to have a really hard time getting Israel fully out of Gaza from the presence they have currently, right?
Yeah, and the rules of the market dictate that if they keep a small, buffer zone within the technical territory of the Gaza Strip,
Right.
around the Philadelphia corridor, on the border with Egypt, if they maintain a buffer force, that can still resolve to yes, as long as they say, but we're staying out of everywhere else.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't like the bet. Long story short, I think it's a pretty slim chance Israel. I think, yeah, there's a lot better chance.
Well, there's a lot of.
I think if I could make a bet that they're not going to leave in the next 3 to 5 years, I'd still bet that. You know what I mean? I just think they're there for the long haul. I don't think these things are changing. I think this is, yeah.
You don't believe in a two-state solution.
I mean, well, no one in Israel's talking about two-state solution. So, I mean, again, it does not matter what I.
No, but it's interesting because Carney here in Canada is making this one of his big issues of the summer, as is Starmer, as is Macron in France. They are playing the last card that I see that is recognizing Palestine that they have left in their deck to try and stop what they see as a humanitarian disaster that there's a lot of good evidence that it is, and they're trying to pressure Netanyahu into a ceasefire. And I think that regardless, it doesn't really matter. And that's the whole thing. It doesn't really matter if there is starvation in Gaza. If enough people believe there are, Hamas has won the PR battle. And I think they have. So again, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what,
You don't think people are starving in Gaza?
I'm saying it doesn't matter.
Right, but you phrase it as if it's not true.
I'm sure there are.
I think there's examples on both sides, Matt, where there's you have videos from different eras where they're claiming people are starving, and then you have other times where it's obvious that there's ongoing starvation and issues, right? And so, but the PR battle, I think, like you're saying, we all acknowledge that the PR battle is going the way of Hamas, right, in Gaza and the plight of the people there, right? So it just makes that bet.
And that's why I think this is going to resolve as a yes, because regardless, again, we discussed this with Ukraine and Russia. All information coming from both sides is obviously, in the most classical sense, propaganda. Just like in World War II, when they're showing the clips before the movie starts, that's propaganda, right? It might have been propaganda towards a good cause, i.e. defeating the Nazis, but it was not unbiased.
Sure, yeah, we know.
Objective.
We know that the sides don't put out objective information.
Right. And I think that
the bet. Okay, back to the bet. So you think there's a good chance that basically, but your whole push here is that the Netanyahu government. Are you saying that Netanyahu will succumb to pressure, or that he will say, okay, you're pushing me to ceasefire, so is Canada, I'm going to do it, and then that will cause the government.
So that's my bet.
Because
that's my bet.
Well, what's the trigger?
But then see, that doesn't make any sense to me, because then how would that resolve? It just, I guess in my mind, it feels kind of crazy that it can resolve in 2025, because even if what you're saying is true, right, where they're saying, okay, all this international pressure came in, let's say maybe Netanyahu backdoors a deal with some of the major European powers to not recognize for a ceasefire, and pull out troops. Let's say that's what happens. I still don't think that would be completed by the end of the year. I think these things are slow. They're going to take time.
I disagree, and here's why. Because this is such an asymmetrical war, right? Israel completely dominates all sectors of the battlefield, basically, and Hamas can only pop out of their spidey hole to hijack a food shipment truck. But I mean, for the most part, Israel completely controls everything. So unlike Russia and Ukraine, well, this will have to be hashed out. Who's getting what territory when? Here's what we're going to do. In order for the Israel-Gaza ceasefire to happen, all they really have to do is just pull back. Hamas will come out of the hole. They'll get the hostages, hopefully, those that are still alive, and obviously the bodies that Israel still wants to recover. And I think Hamas will basically declare victory.
Well, again, is this one that's based on credible reporting? Because I mean, one of the interesting ones that I was
Yeah, there's
looking at,
sorry to interrupt. Yeah, there's reporting this week that Trump is planning a visit to Israel.
right? No, just what are the rules on the market there? Because there was one where it was like, will Russia take a certain city by August 31st? Right? I forget what the particular name of the city was in Ukraine, but it was based off the ISWT map, right? And how that resolves. Is that what the Gaza one is based off, or is it based off sort of credible reporting from some of the major institutions?
I guess that's another. Again, let's just focus on the bet itself. I think that's one of the tricky things, Andrew. I think you would have to have that bet because I feel like because you could get a ceasefire and this could still be a disputed bet.
Because that's one where I would think like maybe Netanyahu outwardly says, "Oh yes, we're pulling back, blah blah blah," except for the Philadelphia corner. But then we've got all this video coming out of Gaza where they're like, no, I'm here, guys. I'm here. And I can tell you, we're still getting shot at.
It's like that. And it's the thing of the troop Kamala, where she's like, there are no troops overseas.
Yeah, they're like, wait, what?
What the hell am I doing here? There's a screenshot with the whole sound. Right. Yeah, there's all these fights and IEF guys being like, I'm here at Gaza. What are you talking about? I want to get this bet on. Anyway. Yeah. Okay, let's wrap this one up. I think it's an interesting bet. I don't think it's crazy. I don't like the odds. I don't like the price. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think the problem with this bet, again, from like an analytical perspective, is that you could be right and still lose a lot. And I don't necessarily think you're going to be right, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? I think like even if you get a ceasefire sometime in the fall, you know what I mean? Which is like basically what you assume is your trigger or Netanyahu fall or something like that to win this bet. You still might not win the bet because you don't have that much time. But that's anyways, I don't think it's a crazy bet. I'm glad you're up a little bit. And yeah, go on to that. Do you have any bets you like this week?
No, I didn't have anything, any particular big bets, but I think there was a couple other bets we wanted to touch on. Andrew, you had something you want to talk about in terms of selling some of your positions and things like that you wanted to update us on from last week.
Yeah, I did sell my recession bet for 2025. You guys made some good points, and it really is threading the needle because even though it's only the advanced numbers that have come in for Q2, they still point strongly.
It's going to be a big reversal to go from 3 to negative.
Yeah.
And
but I did take another position in will GDP be negative in Q3, and I still think I have a pretty good chance of winning that one. But that one is down this week, so maybe talk about that.
Good. Well, what was like you buy in for 100? Yeah, like what was your total down on that? No, not to solo you out. I've lost dozens of dollars. dozens of us.
I took 900 shares at 11, and now it's down to 10.
Okay, so that wasn't a huge loss.
Not a huge loss, but lost.
That's the interesting thing too about those sort of low percentage odds, right? It's like you gotta take a big hit to go.
Flyers are flyers,
like.
All right, well, I'll talk about the one bet that I liked this week real quick then, which was which company has the best AI model end of 2025. Google right now is the favorite at 56%. Then you have OpenAI and XAI around the same, and then all these smaller players, the Metas, the Anthropics, yada yada, down below that. And my bet's just basically kind of going off two things, because this one formulates to some particular website. Joel, you looked it up with me. There's like a rankings about all these different things, and right now XAI, which is my bet, is like number 5 or 6 in the order. But all the other things that we've seen when Grok 4 came out was that it was the best. And that's kind of this bet is like, I'm not even deep enough in the AI world to have a really good sense of how this will go. It's just saying, listen, I'm getting 5-1 on Elon winning, and Elon wins a lot. So I just don't think it's a crazy, and we've seen Google drop the ball before. It's like, I've heard good things about Gemini, but like, have you guys used Gemini? No, I did use Gemini. They're all really good. And what it looks like, and this is based off, is Gemini is actually the best at a lot of the video stuff, a lot of the picture stuff, and which makes sense. They have access to YouTube. They have the biggest clusters,
Most training data.
most training data. They have all this stuff.
YouTube is one of the great.
But you're just basically betting that Elon might just be a little more hardcore than even these guys. Do you know what I mean? And figure something out by the end of the year at a 5-to-1 shot. I put $100 on it. I don't think it's crazy.
I think that's not crazy, right? Because it's like we already know they've gone,
Because we already know they're ahead in certain things.
so then they've gone 5x or 10x on the hardware side,
Right.
right? Where they're building these mega clusters that people thought were impossible. It's like they thought 100,000 was impossible, and then they did 100,000, and now they're doing 1,000,000, right? And again, whether or not those fruits come necessarily in 2025, I think we've already seen with Grok 4 coming out the leap they made. And again, this website I looked at on sort of the first link that you clicked on, it had Grok and XAI as number 1 or number 2. But it was only when you clicked on the particular filter that accounted for the rules of this bet
Sure.
that put Google up to the top, right? And it's, again, I was like,
Well, and again,
do I know what that difference is?
Of course not. Why are they? Interestingly enough, like I said, I think a lot of this stuff has to come down to these pictures and these video tasks. And what has Elon been spamming about all last week? Is just check out this image and make it a video.
Yeah,
clearly
a bunch of videos.
Yeah,
for
clearly
us.
he's pushing. I think this is kind of the next big frontier of AI, is the ability to basically create videos on demand. Because whoever wins that market, it's massive. And of course, there'll be multiple winners, but you don't want to be behind. You would think Google will naturally have a massive advantage for how big they are, YouTube, yada, yada. But maybe Elon can figure it out first.
I mean, it's impressive that Google is doing so well, considering, 6 months or a year ago, all I was hearing about from all the tech people that I would listen to was like, oh, Google's dropping the ball, So
Well, I think the rumor already was, it always was this, Friedberg talked about it, that Google internally had all this amazing stuff, and they were kind of a little shy to bring it up, but they literally let OpenAI take a huge portion of the consumer market just because they were slow to evolve, because they didn't want to kill what is the most profitable business in the world, which is their search engine. So
So you mentioned OpenAI. I think the most interesting thing about this market is how OpenAI basically fell off a cliff last week with the introduction of GPT-5.
Yeah.
So as of last week, they were almost neck and neck with Google, 43 to 36%. And OpenAI is now below XAI in terms of winning this bet. That's how bad
I think we did talk about, not privy to the chats here, but I think we talked about shorting OpenAI before this stuff came out, right? And
I think what the play is, I mean, not to get all I know I'm talking about we're an all-in podcast or something like this, but I think the play, essentially, you have to understand the market is that ChatGPT has a massive install base that is used frequently, but is used by consumers for low, not dense, not super technical work. It's a lot of hey, what should I make for dinner? Or
Write me
a lot,
email.
right? A lot of people use it for personal advice and just asking questions. And
Therapy.
therapy. And they dominate this market. I think Grok 5 was really, if you actually my understanding is it was designed to be simpler, use less compute, so they're not losing so much money, and they're still serving the vast majority of people using their product. And then Elon and Gemini, these guys are trying to fight to be no, we want to be the best at the next big thing.
Yeah.
And hoping, because they're already losing the first install on the basics, so they have to try to be better at the next big one to then hopefully capture a bigger share of that market. Because I think people, it's true, once you get used to it, ChatGPT actually do find is really good for answering questions. I find it better than Grok. You know what I mean? For answering my basic questions. And so if that's the market, is that consumer personal market, they're going to keep dominating it.
Is that because ChatGPT is a little more sycophantic and being wow, you're absolutely right. That was a great question.
And they both do that, but ChatGPT does that.
I feel that's what I was going to say almost, is that I feel like Grok does that slightly less. I mean, obviously Grok has its own issues seemingly, but it doesn't seem as sycophantic in terms of oh yes, you're completely right about this thing, right? There was that, I think all in podcast today, you were just talking about the AI psychosis, right? And
I hold that stuff for sure. But the crazy thing is,
there are always so many people who are completely wiped out by it.
Well, you get one shot by AI.
But here's the crazy stuff. And I was I remember talking with my wife, and we're talking about some of the stuff. I was like, just, the AI might be pulling out fake stuff. And she's like, no, they wouldn't. I'm like, and there's been 2 cases now, legal cases, where they submitted, the lawyers
submitted fake
cases to the judge because they were just AIing everything, and they got a lot of trouble.
Well,
They didn't even check.
And that was the interesting thing for me is
It's just crazy that XAI, they'll literally, or ChatGPT or whoever, will literally make up fake cases because they're like, oh, I know you want this. So they're just like, in 1997, this wasn't this happened. It's crazy.
No, and that's the funny thing is I sort of figured that early on when it was basically ChatGPT as the only player, right? Like I would go to it and ask it about the certain legal issues because I do a little bit of law here in my day-to-day job, but it would make up a case and I would go try and find that case in the applicable resource.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
Good job, and it doesn't exist. And I'm like, I would go talk to
it send?
no, I would go talk to the AI and go, yeah, no, I just made that one up. But you're right. There's those cases where people have actually brought those forward, and it's going to be a big issue where the hallucinations create issues, right? I mean, that's regardless of the source, obviously. But
anyways, we're really off topic here.
yeah,
Back to the bet. I think it makes sense. You're getting 5-1. I put some money down. Overall, you know what I mean? Like I said, I like the contrarian bets. I think it's the word most the upside is. And so put some money down.
I think it's a good bet. I think, at least in terms of hardware,
they got
Elon's
the Colossus net, exactly. They got the direct connection with the NVIDIA, Wang sending all this stuff. So
I mean, it might have been again the All-In podcast where I heard this, but I heard that Elon is training on synthetic data now. Like at a certain point, this gets so far above my head. Like I don't even know what he's talking about. Like how do you create synthetic data to train these AI?
Okay, so synthetic data is like the things that I've created. It's like I know I've gone in and used it for a particular calculation, whether it's accounting sort of based in a legal setting, and it does a very good job of creating that better than I can. Obviously, less good than an accounting expert, but that data, it was valuable to me, and would clearly then it's synthetic data that was created completely out of whole cloth by this AI, and is now useful to them because they at some point can obviously get some input from me, whether that's useful or not, right?
That's the synthetic data, and it's basically people using this, their user data.
Yes, right. But that wasn't user data by a human. It's user data generated by an AI that is used
That
to
values
right. And the real life training.
Exactly. And so that's basically what it's now formulated, because if they've already read the whole internet, which is what we're saying, right? Now it comes as I figured out this building block, right? And if you go back to some of the actual game theory, when you start looking into how AI has evolved over time, right? You know what I mean? It was just first initially, like in Go or chess, whatever, they just practice every move possible. But eventually these things, they see the patterns, they start recognizing the patterns, and they repeat it. It's like crazy shit, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what's going on. So they're recognizing the patterns, and that becomes the synthetic data that they're building on. And yeah, who knows what's happening.
Well,
and it makes sense why he's pushing so hard for the graphics and the video and stuff like that, because obviously then you're gonna get the feedback, people saying this looks good, blah blah blah, and that's how you
that was the interesting thing with whether it was Go or chess. I mean, chess I think was a little easier to solve there, but with Go it was like they're like, oh, they're never really going to catch humans, but at some point they're like, oh, they created novel moves, right? That the greatest game in mass
game that has been played for hundreds of years,
thousands of years.
Sure, sorry, my bad.
Right,
my bad. Hundreds, thousands.
But again, it's one of those things where you're right. That's all that information that it created. There's moves that are counterintuitive in chess, but ultimately the AI, you can tell when a human plays a AI chess move, because it's like a human would never do that, right? You're sacrificing your queen or doing some stupid play that ultimately has some end game.
Well, I think even when it's more interesting talking about how poker was solved, right? And it was all by making it play itself, for tens of thousands.
That's how all these games are solved.
Yeah,
that's how Go got solved. That's how chess got solved. They all get solved the same way.
Yeah, and sometimes they have no training data on the human game.
No, yeah, they just give you the parameters, and that's how you get these really novel solutions. Is they're only given rules and the conditions to try.
And they're not basing it on that human sort of enforcement that was already there.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. It's like, oh, this is a good opening in chess. They don't know what a good opening is in chess. They don't know what a good hand is in poker.
Right. And so they try all of them.
Exactly. They figured it out. Right. And then It is actually well, maybe for another episode. We should probably wrap this up. But it is really interesting when you start when I feel like you do have a good understanding of some of like for me for poker. I played a lot of poker in my life. You know what I mean? Some of the game theory stuff, and you understand like, oh, like this is how it evolved. Like humans are still doing it, but all the humans are copying the AI. And I think that's going to play out in so many fields where it's like lawyers, doctors. It's like in our lifetime, all these people are going away. They're all just going to be copying, saying, "Oh, well, what's the best legal argument?" We're both arguing what the AI is. Now it comes with a memorization game. Anyway, it's interesting. But yeah, that's my bet. I like it. Anything else that you guys have done this week as far as following up on what we like and what we don't?
No, I don't think there's anything major from any of us here in terms of other bets. I will try and be a little more cognizant of the market here, make some exciting plays.
I guess you're doing
You
good.
know, I'm gonna make
Joel,
crazy.
Joel's next
you know?
week. He's coming in with it. Joel, you're
I'm
going to
gonna
come in
make a wild one.
because Andrew's already cashed out. Andrew's already maxed out. So he's not selling Andrew's out. So it's not me and you, Joel.
I've got a few $100 here to slam in some big bet.
Okay, well, I'm gonna look for something interesting. Maybe next week we'll try to do maybe some more technology stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's fun. Or maybe some more economic stuff is also fun, and maybe not get so geopolitical and controversial.
No, well, I think we threaded that needle pretty well today.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't fight about it. Gaza, there's
No fights, no nothing, no loud voices, no loud laughter.
Once.
Loud laughter is something that's strictly prohibited, but we avoided that today. And yeah, no, we really appreciate everybody listening today. And if you have any interesting bets that you want us to follow, do PolyMarket podcast or PMP bets, and we'll check those out for the markets next week. And yeah, have a good one. We appreciate it.
All right, well, now, boys.
Good luck, ladies.
PolyMarks boxes, 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 PolyMarks boxes.